Welcome into the 12 Talk podcast. My name's Josh, and with me, as always, is my podcasting partner in crime, Mitch. We're here on following our podcast before the game. This is not the type of pod I anticipated doing, but we're going to talk all about the Seahawks home opening loss against the 49ers. We've got a very special guest, 12. We've got James AKA Greene Hawk. He's going to be coming in with us. We're going to be chopping it up. We're going to give you our takes on the game. We're going to talk about some stats. We're going to talk about some key points. And as always, our winners and losers. At the end of it as well, we've got your comments and our Discord member musings. So if you are watching and you want to throw a comment in, by all means, please do, because we love to see what you guys have to say as well. But Mitch, shall we hit the theme music and get straight into this?
Let's do it.
Back at it again, 2 pods in 2 days, Mitch. This is unheard of for us, but that's how excited we were about the start of the season. And then the game happened.
Bit busy, isn't it?
It is, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I absolutely love the start of the season. We have, like you said, the off season's been and gone, where there's all the speculation, the hyperbole, and the season has started. And hopefully the only way is up from here. If you are joining us, thanks so much. Feel free, click like on this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It really helps us out and helps us reach more 12s, just like the 12 we've got coming on very, very shortly. And if you're not yet, join the Discord. Mitch will pop the link in the comments. You can join for free and talk to 12s from all over the world, and we love having you guys in there. We had a fantastic sort of gathering yesterday to watch the game, which started out really positively, and then it changed up somewhat, but that's the way it's going to go. Season of highs and lows. Before we do anything, I want to give a big shout out to our show sponsor, Flying V Vintage Sports Clothing, UK-based vintage sports clothing, making a concerted effort now to get as much Seattle sports goods as possible at really good prices for you. As I said yesterday, I've just been and bought a pair of Seahawks training bottoms, and they are amazing. It's like new. But a couple of examples, they've still got some jerseys up there as well, and more training tops that are coming up as well. If you do want to try them out, by all means, use our code 12Talk at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your order. 20 whole percent. It's a massive saving. But without further ado, Mitch, shall we bring on our special guest?
Yeah.
Now, if you're on TikTok, you've probably seen him. It's where I first connected with him, and he's got some fantastic Seahawks content and a Seahawks man shed, which is enviable. His man cave is chef's kiss, top notch. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Let's bring in James, AKA Greene Hawk. James,
hello, guys.
How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate this, and we're looking forward to chopping it up with you. So before we start, it's a bit of background on you as a 12. So where did it all start? Tell us about your love for the Seahawks.
I was actually born here in the Northwest, so I was one of the ones lucky that the year I was born was their first year as Seahawks, 1976. So I have a connection to that because I had neighbors that worked for the stadium, that worked for the bars near there. So I was always, even growing up, knew all about the Seahawks, knew all about going and tailgating and meeting players and going to the stuff. So, I got lucky to see it from the beginning.
Oh, nice. A lot closer than we are.
Yeah.
It's something as Seahawks fans from the other side of the Atlantic, we live vicariously through you guys, because you were at the game, and we'll talk about that as well, because I can't wait to hear what your thoughts were being there and what the 12s around you were thinking as well. So, shall we get into it? Let's peel off the Band-Aid and relive the awfulness of that game. So here we go. Let's add James back in, and let's get the this. Do you know how much I hate putting these up when it comes to a home loss or a loss of any kind? There you go. There's a score. Seahawks fall to our bitter rivals, San Francisco 49ers, 17-13. And just to rub a bit more salt in the wound, here's the box score for you all. First quarter, George Kittle, it's every single time we play him. Now, James, tell me, is there any sort of dislike for George Kittle in the stadium as soon as he steps on the field? Because we feel it here every time he plays us. He just seems to do something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we hate the guy because he's so good for our rival, you know, because he's been, ever since he's joined that team, he's been their reliable guy. He's been there, you know, hey, we really need a first down deep or we need a touchdown. Kittle's their guy, you know. He's that kind of a player for their team that he's, when he went out, you know, that was a big change for their team because he's an essential piece. You know, he's one of your top guys.
We thought it was going to be, we thought when he went out, and I never want to see someone who's been injured playing a contact sport. I never want to see any player go out injured, but I think every Seahawks fan sort of breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, oh, that's their top target gone. But as we know from watching the game, it wasn't quite the way. Second quarter, however, things looked a bit better. We had the TD from Charbonnet, field goal from Myers, and the missed field goal from Moody as well. A lot has been going on social media from 49ers fans talking about Moody. Quarter three, damp squib, 0-0, 0-0, with the block field goal by Julian Love from Moody as well. And then Q4, things went awry. And we'll get into the weeds of it, but we had the field goal from Moody, field goal from Myers, and then that touchdown at the end from Tonjes, I think is how you pronounce his name. So let's talk about it. What were obviously you were there, so give us a first-person account of the feelings of yourself and the 12s that were there, James.
Yeah, I mean, being there at the stadium, especially in recent years, because the Niners have been good, and we have not necessarily been the greatest team. There is a unbelievable rivalry between these two teams. We absolutely hate them, and they absolutely hate us. And when we are in the same stadium, it's interesting, to say the least. Because they made a big thing about how, you know, they were going to have undercover police at this game and everything. Now, that being said, I never saw any Seahawks fans that were, you know, ridiculous or out of bounds. But I did watch somebody on the Niners fan base get thrown out of the game halfway through the game. So it's that level of intensity between the fans, between the teams. It's something that you have to experience as a Seahawks fan at least once, because, you know, they're the kind of fan base that they will make sure you know that they beat you at home. And that's why it means that much more to beat them at home, because they won't let you forget it. And so there's a very intense rivalry between the two. And being at that rivalry is nothing like you've ever seen, you know, especially with the history that we've had with them, you know, with the fact that we had the Legion of Boom and, you know, Richard Sherman NFC Championship tip against them. And it's one of those things, too, that we make sure that they don't forget that. During the game, they were playing highlights of all that stuff to remind them, hey, remember when we did this to you? You know, so it's a very intense rivalry between the two teams. And it makes for a very good game, because we've played them in prime time. We've played them in playoffs over the years. It's been a battle between them. So
yeah, it's palpable on the TV copy that we get, and there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about there being more away supporter fans in Lumen than there has been home fans, and I think Brian Nemhauser yesterday shared a video of sort of 3/4 of the stadium, which was predominantly blue, but then there was that one side of the stadium which was just like a sea of red.
Oh yeah,
and I can deal with that. I mean, we in the UK, we've obviously got soccer. It's very tribal there, where fans have to be separated. I mean, Mitch will know more than me, having been to a soccer game more recently than I have. But it just seems like you can feel the animosity through the TV copy as well.
Oh yeah,
and that's something that desperately one day I will be there. There was the president of the UK Seahawks was actually there, Cedric. He was there yesterday.
Yeah.
I think he met up with Hawk, and they were chopping it up. And I think it was everyone that I spoke to that was there or going to the game was so excited, and we all thought we were going to win the game, and then the result happened. So talk to me about sort of the highs and lows of this. So the first missed field goal, how did everyone sort of feel about that from the Seahawks point of view?
Oh, I mean, it was incredible. It was because the way that they've changed the rules in the NFL, it's harder as a defense to try and force that missed field goal. So they're very common to just make them, it's so for that to happen, it's a little bit of defense putting forth some serious pressure and effort, and maybe a slip, a miss, something by the kicker. So
nice. And then obviously the Zach Charbonnet touchdown. I mean, we're going to get onto our winners and losers, and I know that's part of yours. But how did everyone feel when he hit that gap perfectly, in my opinion?
Yeah,
and just piled over that line. I can imagine the roar was immense.
Oh, it's you that stadium is so loud that you feel it. You feel when the crowd, like as you may have heard in the past, like with the Beastquake, you actually feel it. There's points. I've been to both the NFC championships there, and the crowd was so loud that you could feel the stadium moving underneath you. So it's one of those things that you can't explain unless you're there to actually feel it. It's one of a kind.
I think there's probably two other highlights. There was we've just spoken about Julian Love with the block field goal. Now, he, in my opinion, is one of the best players we have on our defense. He's Mr. Consistent, but getting, he got the sack. He blocked that field goal. Is there a love for Julian Love within the Seahawks fan base locally, like sort of we feel from afar?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He's one of those players that you really get to know and like right away. Plus, there's kind of a Seattle connection to that because Julian Love actually has family in Seattle.
Yeah, they own a restaurant, don't they?
It's one of those cool things that there's a definite connection. He loves the city. He plays his heart out, and the fans love him. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. So and he plays his heart out on the field. So you can't ask for anything more.
So from that high, I'm now going to take the dagger and just sort of stick it in your heart and all of ours. What was the feeling when the 49ers scored that touchdown at the end?
The final touchdown? It was painful because we were making incredible stops. Our defense was shutting them down in the red zone. I mean, just shutting them down to where it was coming. It reminded me of old Legion of Boom, not to compare to them, but where it came down to inches. I mean, they were like, oh, we need, 2 yards. And, we hit them and push their line back and they'd lose a yard. Now they're 3rd and 3 on goal line. And it was just an absolute battle. And, as much as I hate the 49ers, I have to give them credit that they continued to fight, and we knew it was going to be a fight with them because both teams, that division, winning that division determines basically who is really going to advance somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Mitch, before we get into the stats, and I know that's your bag, and obviously we all had our feelings on the Discord live yesterday, and I think I've made mine perfectly clear on various forms of social media now. You're quite quite a placid man. You're not overly emotional, very statistical. What were you feeling at the end?
At the time, do you mean when the final touchdown was scored?
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like we had a really good opportunity there to go up the field and win that game. We saw Darnold do it multiple times for Minnesota last year. Granted, the offense had been a steaming pile for the most of the game, so my confidence was slightly lower than usual. But I didn't rule out any chance of us going and winning that game. And sure enough, we actually made it look like we might be doing it as well. I think sometimes the hope you get in that 2-minute drill sometimes makes it feel an awful lot worse. But we gave it everything, and there was a few little annoying things on that final push in that drive. I think wasn't that the drive when the ball went through Cooper Kupp's hands as well, or was that slightly earlier on?
I think that might have been earlier.
There might have been earlier on, but there was a couple of things on that drive that were a little frustrating, and I think the abandoning of our run game in the second half was particularly painful, and we didn't have any rhythm that we could tap into on that final drive either. Not that running the ball and 2-minute drills popular, but sometimes you want to be able to threaten to do everything at least when you're putting together plays and calling plays, and we just abandoned too much. So I feel like we let ourselves down. But I didn't lose hope in that last drive. So, but yeah, like I say, that just makes it more painful sometimes, doesn't it? When you genuinely think you might do it.
It does, and there was so much expectation with this new look Seahawks offense, and I think it fell flat at some points. I don't think Darnold played a bad game. I think it was very conservative. That the final fumble, I felt a bit sorry for him because that was just Abe Lucas couldn't drop his anchor enough to stop Bosa, and Bosa just powered him straight into Darnold. Whilst we're talking about that, let's talk about some key points now. Mitch, you've got some stats for us. So what stats do you think are key to this as to why the result went the way it did? And then we can have a chat about them. Obviously, anytime a stat comes up, James, just so you know, as our guest and as very polite Englishman, you always go first, in your opinion. So Mitch will give us the stats, then it's all you do.
All right.
Okay. So the first one I think that's really key is that the first 50 minutes of the game, we had the ball for 15 of them. So we actually had the ball for 15 of 50. Obviously the last 10 minutes of the game we had a bit more of it, so that skews the data slightly. But when you think about the first 50 minutes and only having 15 minutes of it, we're not even close to sharing the ball evenly with them. And when you think about their drives, we didn't really achieve many 3 and outs. It was bend, don't break, and stuff them in the red zone kind of situations, which feeds into that stat of them having more of the ball and not scoring many points with it. But I think that tells a bit of a tale in that they got us off the field a lot quicker and a lot easier than we did. And I think also that inevitably takes its toll on your defense. I know we're going to look at RIQ Woolen and some of the high-profile mistakes, but let's not forget that he was out there twice as long as any DB for the Niners was. So that takes its toll later in the game. If your concentration's dropping and legs getting tired, and there's a reason sometimes for that. So the offense's inability to stay consistent and efficient is shown with that stat, and I think also that leads then into the defensive stuff too. Any thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, I think you were spot on about that because both teams came in trying to establish the run game. Seattle did actually establish the run game and was doing very well. And then we kind of gave up on that. And I didn't understand why, because when you establish the run game, you control the time and you control how much your offense is on the field. So you basically take the game in your hands. As long as you're moving the ball, it's your ball. So I didn't understand why after we established it, and they did the same thing. They tried to establish it in the beginning, and our defense absolutely shut them down. Now, then they started doing this like play action pass to the outsides and trying short passes and that actually did work for them because it was getting them past our defense. But yeah, we struggled because we move the ball down, get down the field, and then they would, continuously keep the ball going and move it. And so that was hard because it's hard to beat a team when they're most of the time on the field, it's their offense, so.
Yeah, I think the total sort of time of possession, San Francisco had 37 minutes and 58 seconds, and we had 22 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole game. And I think it was the first touchdown drive for them took 10 minutes off the clock.
No.
They had that much possession on one drive. And that's how you win these games. And I think that's indicative of the whole game. The fact that we just couldn't, and it was like watching a Waldron and that type of offense where we just couldn't maintain possession. Same as Grubb as well. There was no sequencing. It was just after we established a run early, we then started trying everything. I mean, Jalen Milroe came in for what was it, the second snap of the game?
Yeah. Which
was just baffling. And it just seemed a bit clueless and like, we're going to try this fancy stuff, and it just didn't work. I think this should have been a game where we just really established what our identity was, like we did against the Chiefs in preseason, and it just didn't happen. Go on, Mitch, hit us with another stat.
I was just going to make a little point here that we only had the one sack in the game, right? And our defense played well, but we only had the one sack, and it was Julian Love. But we actually hit Purdy 8 times, and that's actually really good. And it shows that we nearly had more defensive, impactful plays than it felt like. And of course, we had the two interceptions of Purdy as well. Darnold didn't have any on the day. It feels to me like for the longest time with Geno, and I'm not a Geno naysayer or hater in any way, but there weren't many games with Geno we came out clean in terms of the interception column. There was usually 1 or 2 hero balls getting thrown around that were picked off, especially in the red zone. So coming out of that 2-0 in our favor on the interceptions and not getting the win feels pretty bad, but we know that the fumbles were what killed us there, not the interceptions, right? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I just thought one sack but 8 QB hits was a really interesting sort of nearly success, if you know what I mean. Like I thought that shows the fine line between really punishing your opponent and letting them get away with it.
Come on, James, what do you think of the Neelys there? Because I've got stuff to say.
Yeah, that's the most painful thing. It's like if it was something where we got absolutely blown out, then you're like, yeah, we got beat hands down. But I mean, we were still in this game all the way till the fumble with Sam Darnold at the end, and we were like, they're moving down the field and moving. You're running out of time, just keep it moving, and they kept doing it. So we still had hope. That's what made it more painful, is to be that close and still lose. But yeah, it's just it was a fairly clean game. I think they were playing it a little bit safe by going more run, which I'm all for. Like I said, control the clock, run the ball, move it down. And then when they start, expecting you to run the game, then you start throwing it on them. Throw it here, there, then run it. Then they have no idea what you're doing. That was classic Super Bowl Seahawks. They would go in and they would force the ball down your throat. And when you were exhausted, your defense was exhausted, then they'd go all over. You had no idea what they were doing next. So
that was one of our issues.
They'll establish. Oh, sorry. I think
no, it's fine.
Establish with the receivers soon. Kind of get it to where Sam Darnold and those guys are clicking. Because that was one of the things that also hurt us was you could tell on a couple plays that, Sam was trying to go to this spot and the guy wouldn't be there. And that's just classic football where, you want to make sure the defender is not running you off and out of your zone that you need to be. Otherwise he's won that battle. So
just to sort of extend upon what you said, Mitch, we said last season our QB pressure rate was actually okay, but we couldn't finish. It was basically the Seahawks edging every single fan, but not getting the completion out of it. So we were getting that pressure on the QB, but the sacks weren't there. Same as this game. We were pressuring the QB, but the only sack we got was from a safety blitz. It's just, and having listened to Mike McDonald's interviews, he's frustrated because he is all about efficiency. He's all about finishing what you start. And I think he's feeling frustrated more than anyone about the fact that we weren't able to hit home on some of these. I think offensively, like you said, James, it might take a bit more time for Darnold to click with these wide receivers. But we were calling out in the Discord last night. There were times when he threw to JSN and you had Barner was wide open on one of them. Torrey Horton was absolutely blazing down the sideline, totally uncovered. And he just didn't have the confidence to throw there, or he didn't see him because he'd run the wrong route. I'm not too sure. But come on, Mitch, before I dig myself into a hole of despair, give me some more stats. Give us two more and then we'll go to winners and losers.
I'll give you a real promising, shining light. So 4 of our top 10 PFF rated offensive players were offensive linemen yesterday. Isn't that nice? Some positivity for the big boys.
Did I see Zabel 26 snaps and only allowed 1 pressure?
Yeah, correct. And he graded quite well. He was our 7th highest grade. We had Josh Jones, Gray Zabel, Bradford, and Cross all in our top 10. We also had 2 tight ends in our top 10. Seattle obviously famous for their stellar utilization of tight ends, so continued that yesterday. But yeah, no, I just thought that was interesting. Another interesting thing on the PFF grades, Kenneth Walker was 6th highest for doing what I don't know. But Zach Charbonnet only 4 points higher with a 66 grade in the top 5. So Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker very similarly graded, but I saw 2 very different performances from those 2. And 2, one very impactful, one almost a no-show in my opinion. But
we won't elaborate on that because I know James has got some of his winners in that column as well. So give us one more stat, Mitch, and then we'll get on to the winners and losers.
Okay, so I'll give a little shout out to Christian McCaffrey injury here. So Christian McCaffrey yesterday, we held him to 3.1 yards of rush, which for most running backs they'd probably take that. No, it's not great, but they'd probably take it. That's bad for him. It's very bad for him. I think he had more carries than our 2 premier rushers combined on the night. I think he had 24 carries and our 2 running backs or main running backs combined for 22. So he had 2 more carries and he averaged 3.1 yards. It was through the air that he did his damage last night. And in a shout out to him, he's now become the fastest running back to 4,500 yards receiving in NFL history, I think, after yesterday. So we love the 49ers coming to our turf and getting a record, right?
Yeah.
But But he's earned that. He's been outstanding in our league, and fair play to him for that. But it felt like he was doing some damage to us through the air. They seem to find soft spots for him to receive the ball in plenty of times, and a lot of the yak that they managed on the night came from McCaffrey receiving it and seemingly ripping off an extra 7, 8, 9 each time. So that hurt us.
It did. Well, shall we get on to one of my favourite segments on this pod? Winners and losers. Winners and losers. Now, we try and keep it as positive as possible on this pod because we all know as sports fans that season's peak and trough. You know, you never know what's going to happen. You're never quite sure if the first game's going to be awful, but it's just an upwards trajectory from there, or you start hot with 4-game winning streak and then it just tanks. So let's do some winners and losers. James, as our guest, you get to give us your 3 winners, and then Mitch and I will do a winner, and then we'll go on to your loser, and then we'll do our losers as well. So start from the top, my friend. The Seahawks run game you had as a winner.
Yes, definitely. Seahawks run game was looking amazing, and on part that it has to do with the Seahawks O-line. Without the O-line that we currently have, we would not have had that run game. And so they're both my winners on that because they literally need one another to function. So
now I'm pretty sure Mitch is going to have something to say about this run game after the stat he just gave with Ken Walker.
It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, Charbonnet looks far better suited to the system now than Ken Walker does, but Ken Walker's only ever one play away from taking it to the house and changing a game. So one guy's gonna beat you, with death by 1,000 cuts, and the other guy's just gonna be one slash to decapitate you. It's a very different approach to running the ball with what we've got. And I take James's point that they're complementary to each other. And I think you get a bit upset, Josh, when we see Ken getting runs up the gut rather than bouncing it outside. But I think sometimes you have to threaten up the gut to be able to be effective bouncing it outside. You need to, you can't just be predictable. But I do think they did it too much with Ken, and I don't think it's a strong suit. And I no longer really think he suits the scheme. But hey, that's another thing. I did think we started establishing the run really well. I think the first quarter of the game, I was hopeful that we'd be doing that all game and we'd have a real good shout to have a consistent drive each time we got the ball if we were running the ball like that with Charbonnet. But as soon as we switched to Ken and gave him his carries and those didn't go right, it was like, okay, run game's not working. There was no attempt to go back to what we did with Charbonnet. It was just run game done. Three drives in a row, 3 and out without running the ball on any of them. So I think the play calling with the running backs was a failure. I think the performances of Charbonnet in particular shone on the night.
So I'm going to bang this drum again. If you need a running back who's going to hit a gap that is set for him by an O-line, you give it to Charbonnet because he does not ad-lib. He is on task. If you go hit it straight up the B gap, straight up the A gap, run off the tackle, he will do that. And he will not go, I'll go for that A gap, but I can see it's closing in, so I'm going to try and bounce it outside and then take a 5-yard loss because I've tried to, do more than I should have done. And I think that is what we need. We need that running back who's just going to hit those holes that are provided for him. Like James said, with this O-line, the holes are going to be there this season. But with K9, when he showed it, and they were desperate to get him touches, to get him back in the game after being out all preseason, but he showed he's not that runner. He showed that there were tackles for loss. Again, he was ad-libbing. He was trying to make something happen that wasn't there. And it was the insistence on trotting out K9 all the time to do a job that Charbonnet would have at least made you yards with. Even if it's just bulldozing through for 2 or 3 yards, that's what we could have done with. Because I would rather take 3 downs of 2-3 yards, and then you've got 1 yard to make on a 4th down. as opposed to 3 downs or 2 downs of giving it Ken to try and make him do something electric, which then puts us further back than we started. Then you've got to throw the ball, and they know you're throwing the ball, which leads to an incompletion, or in this game's case, just a target to JSN, which could go either way. And I think it's not conducive to a good run game, just carting someone out for the sake of him being your superstar running back. So that's one of your winners. That's a contestable one, that, James. Give us your second one. So we've got the Seahawks defense as a whole.
Yeah. The O-line, the guys did amazing. The running backs did amazing. I think Sam Darnold, for the first start of this team with a completely new team, did fairly good. Now it was a little bit conservative, and of course, he had some issues here and there, but overall, I think our offensive did good. They can do better. They definitely can do better. They have the pieces to do better, and I think as the season goes, these guys will just build a rhythm, and it will just continuously get better. And as those guys get confidence that they can do this stuff, then it's going to be one of these things that's going to start clicking, and next thing you know, we're going to start beating teams really good. So,
well, then the defense as a winner for you.
Absolutely. The defense, when the offense wasn't fully clicking, the defense was right there. Now, the Niners are one of those teams that they have the ability to climb down your throat offensively. And if they do, it's over. But being that they're NFC West teams just like us, they had, it's all about defense. And our defense definitely showed up and looked consistently better than they did last year. We did an amazing stop on the run game and in short distance and in red zone. We were not getting as many of these, field goal stops like we got, in game one. So we're starting to see things that we used to have with really good defense, which was interceptions, short yardage stops, run game stops, to where the other team is basically forced to have to start throwing the ball all the time. And once you do that, you make them one-dimensional, and then you know what they're going to do. So,
I like that. Mitch, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think the defense was the shining light last night. I think Julian Love last year was just super reliable. In the clutch, he kept coming up with plays. There were games where he was everywhere. Well, game one of the most difficult games we'll have this season. He showed he hasn't dropped a beat. He was straight on it, red hot. Hit the ground running, and he's a tone setter in that defense and a big leader. So great that he was setting the tone. I thought Leonard Williams as well picked up where he left off last year. He was a menace. He was in their backfield. There was TFLs. There was nearly sacks and things as well. So I think Leonard Williams was very good. I think the adjustment we made when Eminori went off, moving Witherspoon to nickel, whilst he's good there, I think that adjustment sort of opened up frailties elsewhere. And as the game went on and the defense had to keep trotting out for long periods, I think we ended up just kind of slightly withering a little bit. But you expect that at this level against a high quality offense, especially if you can't keep the ball on your own offense. So I'm with James on this one. What I will say though, I think the quality of their linebacking core versus ours, I think, was one of the big differences in the game. I think when you look at Fred Warner in there, I think the game he had, he was so influential. Ernest Jones had his moments, and he coordinates the defense and communicates really well. But I think him and Drake Thomas wasn't great. I'm looking forward to Tyrese Knight playing more of a key role in that defense alongside him, honestly. But yeah, otherwise I thought pass rush was great, lots of pressure. I think we called a good game on defense as well. I think in especially in the red zone, I think we were absolutely on the money with calling their bluff and nullifying them. So big result on defense.
I'm not going to harp on too much about a certain player in defense because I've got him in another segment later. But I think I'm just going to say the addition of D-Law for the run stop I thought was outstanding. There was one play that it comes to mind instantly, and I think I've watched the replay about 8 times today, where he comes off the left side on the edge, and he ends up getting all the way. I think he was against 2 wide receivers, but he gets all the way around the O-line, and he just drops like CMC in the backfield. And it was amazing. That's the type of pressure we need on a running back. I think that was brilliant. I'll reserve my conversation about another player for my loser later. So finally, James, then you have the Seahawks O-line, and we spoke about it briefly, but tell us more because I'm loving this.
What, as far as the O-line?
Yeah.
One of the best things they did was step up and get Gray Zabel. The guy has looked amazing through preseason. He's young, he's healthy, and he's intense. And he was as good as they predicted coming out of college. Because, with the draft, what you get may not necessarily be what you end up getting. So it was nice seeing him come out and he is one of these guys that, they say, okay, I need you to push this guy 3 yards out. He will absolutely push that guy 3 yards out. He might even pile drive on top of him. He will make sure that guy is not in the way of the running back. So that alone, plus the guys that we currently have, which are healthy, makes a huge difference, an absolute huge difference. So that is a wonderful thing. And Gray Zabel plays above his experience level as well. So I got to give him credit for that because he's playing with guys that have been in the league already, and he's been right there alongside him. So that's impressive.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Mitch.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about that game last night from our perspective was how established that offensive line looked against the 49ers of all people. I know Nick Bosa had himself a night, but we still kept Darnold relatively upright and gave him time to make most of his reads last night, which I think is a success. I think to your point, James, the big knock on Gray Zabel was the level of college football that he played before he was drafted. Well, you don't get much more of an acid test than playing your first game in the NFL against the Niners, right? There was no Panthers at home or the Cards at home or something like that. This was the 49ers coming to town, and he had a really good game. So hopefully the naysayers that say he didn't play at a high enough level in college to be drafted that high, they'll start getting a little quieter, I think. Not that they matter. He's our player and we like him, so it doesn't matter, but he'll shut people up.
Well, let's get on to our winners before we go on to the losers, Mitch. So who was your winner?
It's difficult, this picking one player. I think maybe Julian Love. I think Julian Love really was the sort of the pinnacle. The defense was our best unit, and he is that leader of it. And he didn't drop a single step of pace from last year. He was just on it straight away. No warm up, just bang. The level he reached last year, which for me was an all-pro level. He was right there straight away. So I think J Love was my winner last night, biggest winner.
Nice, I like that. My winner, I'm going low-hanging fruit. JSM. I think even though he was the main target, I think he proved that he can be a wide receiver 1 in this scheme. I think some of his cuts, some of his runoffs were absolutely fantastic. I think 124 yards off 9 targets. So an average of 13.8 per target. Fantastic. His longest run and catch being 40 yards, up the sideline. And I think he's really starting to grasp what is needed now to be that wide receiver one. I think with the tutelage of Cup as well, that's just going to keep getting better. And that's someone I'm excited to see develop when the pass game really starts going. And like James said, there's more chemistry built and there's a bit more of an even share. I really want to see less double coverage on JSN to see what he can do as well. So that he was my winner. So with that, shall we get on to we're in the doldrums now, the losers. James, your loser. I like this one.
Actually,
You throw
had
a
a hard
curveball
time because my loser was going to originally be CMC, Christian McCaffrey. And the reason why it was originally going to be that was because he, when you're to that level, we all expected Christian McCaffrey to try and be, prime Pro Bowl Christian McCaffrey. And he struggled. Now, that's a nod to our defense. But then I changed my vote and went with the kicker. Because of all people, I thought to myself, this kicker is never going to hear the end of it if they lose that game because of one of his kicks.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. I think that's a perfect loser for the 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
he had a rough day.
Yeah, he did. And rightly so, I think, because didn't they draft him in sort of the third round or something? Yeah. And he's just everything that I've watched and read today from 49er circles is that they don't have the faith in him when it becomes a clutch moment that he's going to make that kick.
No.
Which, as a Seahawks fan, I love. It's just a pity that his missed kicks didn't really mean a lot. It could have been a worse scoreline if he actually had a decent boot on him.
Oh, yeah.
Mitch, who or what was your loser for yesterday?
Well, I'm picking RIQ Woolen, and I'm picking RIQ Woolen just so you can't have him and rant for hours. No, I'm going to pick RIQ Woolen, and he had some moments in the game that were outstanding. There was that pass breakup at the pylon where he got a hand and just deflected it out of the hands, I think, of Ricky Pearsall. I think it was Ricky Pearsall at the corner. Yeah. That was outstanding. However, for all of the eye-catching, jaw-dropping athletic moments that RIQ Woolen has had and will probably continue to have in the NFL, there will be a highlight reel of him looking lost and having to rely upon that athleticism to get him somewhere close to making a play. And there's also too many moments where his eyes get really big and all he's thinking about is catching the ball and ripping off a pick six, when really you could probably have done with just getting a palm on that and stopping the catch. That touchdown was his to disrupt and just, bat it towards your own team, bat it off the pitch, get a hand in between the receiver's hands, just do something to stop that happening and them scoring the touchdown. What he did was to try and catch the ball and make an interception at the cost of actually just stopping a touchdown within 2 minutes of the end of the game with us in a winning position. That was upsetting, and it came off the back of him turning and just watching a ball sail over his head rather than just focusing on the receiver. The receiver will tell you when that ball's about to come because they will turn themselves and raise hands. If you just focus on your receiver that you're supposed to be covering, they will tell you when that ball's coming. You do not need to turn around a second before it arrives. And Mike Mack said 9.9 seconds of 10 for RIQ Woolen on that play were perfect. It was the 0.1 of a second before the ball reached the receiver's hands, which were awful. And that's all it takes at this level. You drop your concentration for a split second as a corner, and you look very average in this league. That was two big mistakes. So RIQ Woolen lost for me.
James, do you want to say anything about RIQ Woolen before I go off on a rant?
Mitch actually was right on the money, but I didn't want to say it. So, yeah, he at times looks great. At other times, he looks like he just complete blown coverage. There's times where I'll watch where they'll struggle and they'll it's 3rd and 18 or something, and they'll throw it right out to the sticks. And he will be standing 3 yards away from the guy. And it's like, dude, you should be on top of this guy because they're going to go to him. It's very obvious that they're going to go to somebody to get those yards. And it's like he struggles with that because it's like he knows it, but I think it's almost like he doesn't want to get a penalty, so he stays off of them. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, you just completely blew it. You gave up a touchdown, or you gave up, a really needed first down stop, or a third down stop, I should say. So it's one of those things that, he's got to play on his man like glue, just all over him. And it frustrates me because when he was a rookie, he did amazing, but he also got an amazing amount of penalties. So I think that he's just decided that if he stays off, he avoids penalties, but then he also risks giving up big plays.
Are you ready for the small segment that our Discord has been waiting for? And James, I don't know if you've heard me going on these rants before, but Jonas here, just RIQ is the highest of highs and lowest of lows. Coming into the season, he was the only cornerback in the league with 4 pass breakups and 10 interceptions. Yeah, that's fantastic. But allow me to go on my little rant. So I'll say it again. I am over the RIQ Woolen experiment. Fair play. He can run 4.2. Absolutely fantastic. Athletic freak. He has got all the measurables to be a world-class, a premier cornerback in this league. However, since his rookie season, he has not proved it. There are concentration lapses. His contact, if anyone runs that in one-on-one, he cannot tackle. He just seems too scared to do that. As you've both pointed out, when it comes to penalties, he seems scared to get too close to his man in case he draws a penalty. However, he's more than happy to put his hand in someone's face at the line of scrimmage and draw a penalty right there. And that's not the first time he's done it. We said it last season, and he had 2 in one game, 1 in this game, because he cannot sink his hips. His biomechanics, when it comes to just being a defender, are completely off. He is a mutant. He's a freak athletically, but he doesn't seem to learn from his mistakes. He is currently, I think his confidence is low, and he's trying to boost that by getting himself an interception, which is why he's trying to track the ball as opposed to looking at the wide receiver that he's covering. And as Mitch said, waiting for them to turn and give him the signal the ball's coming. The drop, it wasn't even a drop. The absolute, we don't swear on this pod, but I wish I could. The awful play that led to that final touchdown was purely him not being aggressive enough to attack the ball. He thought, the ball's coming to my hands, I've got this. He didn't look around for anyone coming in near him. And as a result, the second or third string tight end, who is not there as a receiving threat, plucked that ball straight underneath RIQ's nose. I said this on one of our TikToks and Instagram videos. I do not think when it comes to contract extension time, he will be extended as a Seahawk. I think any more games like this season, and Mike Mack is really going to start questioning if it's worth it. I don't think he's a fit for the scheme. He's not aggressive enough. His concentration wanes when you've got players like Job who will lay the wood on someone, who gets in the thick of it, who actually focuses on his job. I think RIQ very soon will find himself dropping down the pecking order at cornerback. Here ends the rant.
I don't think you're wrong in anything you've said. I think you take quite a strong stance on that. But you're quite right. You know, the experiment with him, a converted wide receiver to cornerback with great measurables and athletic testing. Can he be a starting corner in the league? Well, we've tested him at it multiple seasons, and whilst the stats look quite good, the eye test is ugly at times.
He's been targeted now by people.
Yeah, and there are big moments.
He went from a no-fly zone to a target.
Yeah, quite right. And I think when you look at it now, I think teams are looking at him in big moments, and they like their chances, and that's a problem.
Yeah. So. And this is it. As a sports coach myself, the players you want to work with and the players you see a future for are the ones that take on board coaching and actually look at their their misgivings and learn from them and push forward from it and really develop. He just doesn't seem to have. You watch his game tape the last 2 years, and it's just there's been no development. He went to the gym and bulked up, and everyone went, brilliant, he's going to be ready for contact. He's not. People still run over him, and you can't have that. You need to stop someone dead in their tracks. It's not like rugby where a tackle can be a yard behind you. It's fine because yards matter. He cannot stop someone dead there. He hasn't got the power. He hasn't got the mechanics to do it. No one seems to have taught him how to tackle, or if they have, he's too scared to actually put a shoulder into someone and use the power, use the levers he's got, because he's, 6'4"? And he just doesn't burst through a tackle. He lets people come to him, and as a result, they run over him or run past him. I'm over it. I'm going to design that T-shirt. That's it. That's coming to our merch shop when it goes live. I'm over the RIQ experiment. But yeah, with that, so that was our winners and losers segment. I'm sorry if I got off on a tangent. I could give another loser, but I think I've just said my piece in total. And yeah, I don't want to go any further into it because I'll make myself depressed before bed. Now, James, how much time have you got left for us? Because I know you've taken time out your busy day at work, and I've heard the phone going. Excellent. So we're going to get to a segment that we absolutely love because, as we said at the start of the show, we have a Discord, and we love our members of the Discord because they bring in some fantastic feedback. Some of it's quite funny as well, and they ask some amazing questions. So we've got a Discord member musings that we'll bring up, and then we've got some comments at the end if you've got time for them as well. But before we do that, as we are the official podcast of UK Seahawkers, we'd like to give them a shout out on every pod. If you want to become a UK Seahawker, you can. It's £12 for the year for one person, and it's £20 for a family membership up to 4 at the same address. Additional £5 postage for the goodies if you're outside the UK. But with that, you get access to social events, game day field passes, you get 10% off at the pro shop, you get annual goodies, which I'll show you very shortly, and there are free prize draws for us all. And displayed on Mitch's fantastic box, this is what we got this year. We got our coasters, we got our 21-year anniversary patch, we got our wristband that we get every single year, and your membership card, and these change every single year. So every year you can look forward to something different. And these are the fantastic people that we met in Glasgow. Absolutely amazing bunch, and we're waiting for news on the next meetup so we can all get together, have a good beer, talk Hawks, and hopefully by the time we have this meetup, we'll be having very happy conversations about how the season's gone. I live in hope. I'm an optimistic guy. But here we go. Our Discord member musings, and we've got members of the Discord that are in the comments already. So we do try and give them a say, but if they've commented, the chances are they've probably asked a question as well. So, firstly, and this one's from Tom. If you remember, this is him talking about Glasgow. If you remember, I was massively worried in Glasgow about the lack of depth, deep threat receiver this season, and considered the expectations on Horton to be too high. After that disaster last night, do you still think without a deep threat to stretch the field, the Seahawks can be successful this year? Niners had no respect for any deep play. Would Bobo or Young have made any difference yesterday? James, you can start with that. Do we need another deep threat? And would Bobo or Young have made a difference?
Yeah, I think it would. You know, it's just after yesterday, it was just kind of hard dealing with it and everything. But I think that I don't know.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, when you think that we got rid of MVS, who went to the Niners, who was supposed to be that deep threat. Now we've got Horton, who Mitch absolutely loved coming through the draft, and is one of his boys, who should be that field stretcher, wasn't utilised yesterday. I think we can still have success with this receiving team. Mitch and I said it in the preseason pods that we're going to be a short and intermediate side who's going to try and control the clock with our running game, these short and intermediate passes, just gradually getting us up the field. So we have these 10-minute drives. I think Bobo or Young would have made a difference yesterday, purely from a blocking point of view. I think that'd be the main thing. Having Bobo Young as a run blocker on the outside may have given Ken a bit more confidence to bounce it outside, but I don't think as receiving threat they would have done a lot. Mitch, what do you think?
Well, we've already mentioned that Horton was screaming down the sideline and was ignored a few times, and I think that comes from the level of pressure. So to start criticizing our lack of a deep threat when you've got Bosa, putting pressure on your quarterback, it's all right throwing to a deep threat. You need to let that play develop in order to target that deep threat. The ball was having to come out of hand far too quick for us to be targeting deep threats consistently. However, I do think that there were opportunities where we could have targeted Horton and we didn't take it. So there's some decision-making issues there potentially with Darnold and his reads. I think there's also the level of pressure forcing the ball out of hand too quickly to let deep threat routes develop. So number of things there, really, in my opinion.
Perfect. Jonas has come in with one. We all know it's week 1 and the home loss to the Niners sucks donkey dandruff. Not getting us demonetized, but we're not monetized anyway, mate. So after taking a large chill pill, what kind of performance do we need to see from the Hawks next week against old Roger Todger that can make us hopeful about this team at least until the bye week? Go on, Mitch.
Just establish the run game. I think that the easiest answer to that question about how we make things right against the Steelers, establish the run. I think the growing pains with the offense and Darnold will ease massively if we are able to run the ball and put him in more short yardage situations. And then we can start getting into a flow. If we abandon the run game again, I think we'll just grind another loss out. So essential for me that we establish the run.
Yeah. And this is that part, James, now where what do you want to see next week to see us beat the Steelers?
For sure. That DK Metcalf is going to try and, show out against his former team. So that DK Metcalf is going to want to do whatever he can against us, which just puts more pressure on our defensive back. So they're going to have to keep an eye on him and do that. But we also need to do what we did this week, which is start off by stopping the run game. Force them to be one-dimensional. And then when it is nothing but DK trying to get the ball, as we all know, not to be mean, DK has a bit of a temper. So he gets frustrated very easily. And if you force him to have to constantly be the workhorse and he struggles against a strong defense, it's not going to look good for him. He may get a couple good runs in, but for the most part, he'll struggle. So,
I echo exactly what you two have said. I think one thing that we're really going to need to improve on, and this is going to be, whilst we had DK and Woolen on the same team, there was always that who's the fastest conversation. This is the opportunity where we get to see that who's the fastest competition between Woolen and DK, because I can guarantee they will match up DK against Woolen because they'll have the speed and the length, but DK's got the power. And I think this is going to be the game where Woolen needs to show up and show that he's a top cornerback in the league to be able to cover DK Metcalf, to stop him getting those deep bombs from Rodgers. And then, like Rich said, establish our run game and stop theirs, make them one-dimensional. Fantastic answers. Great question as well, Jonas. Another one. From Jonas, the defense was extremely solid against the Niners as usual, but talking about the cornerback and the mistakes Woolen made and the solid outing of Job, do you think Spoon has to be featured more on the outside because yesterday he didn't have an impact at nickel? Now, Mitch, I think you can take this one because you spoke about it as well. So we'll do this one quick.
Yeah, I think that was massively impacted by Imanori's early departure from the game. I think we would have loved to have seen Witherspoon out on the perimeter more. Hopefully he can play out there a bit more. next week, but we'll see. I would love to see some Witherspoon, Metcalf action, to be honest. Yeah. Proper competitors, both of them.
Yeah. Right, James, you still good for time?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Awesome. I don't want you to get in trouble for being kind enough to come on the pod. So
no worries.
We had Dan saying, did we overrate the defensive performance given they missed 2 field goals, dominated time and possession, moved the chains easily, and were missing a lot of players on offense? James, what do you think? Did we overrate our defensive performance?
I didn't hear that one. What was it?
Sorry. Do you think that we overrated the defensive performance from the Seahawks yesterday?
Oh, I think the defense did amazing, with exception to RIQ Woolen. I think that the defense as a whole did fairly well. And I'm looking forward to Uchenna Nwasu coming back because that will help put pressure on the quarterback, which is something that it would have helped us this last week.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to keep getting better, and it'll get to the point where eventually teams will have to work around our defense.
Yeah, agreed. I think as well, you can't take it away. We kept the 49ers to 17 points, regardless of who they had. You know, they've lost players, but 17 points is still a fantastic result. Any other day, if our offense was clicking, we would have won that game. So let's go. Mark Woodcock from the UK Seahawks. Unfortunately, this should have been far worse than 17-3. A lot for Mike Mack and the coaches to digest. Hopefully, DK doesn't rub it in next week. Unfortunately, I don't think Bobo would have made much difference, and that was in response to Jonas's question earlier. So that's a point well made there. Danny, at what point does Woolen get the boot?
Good question.
I'll hark back to my comment before. I think if he can't contain DK this week or this coming game, I think they're probably going to look at moving him down the depth chart.
I would agree. And that's probably going to be the beginning towards the end.
Yeah. And then Yannick's come in saying, is it cheaper to fire him or do we just kick the bleep out of him so he lands on IR? I'm going to get past that one. And then Danny said, I should have read those properly. Luckily, when this is on audio, people can't see that. And then Danny has said, if you want to read that in full, join our Discord. Danny has said, is Charbonnet now RB1?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I think so.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah, I think we covered it pretty well at the start of the pod. That I think he's a scheme fit for this. And these are the last couple of questions here. More important question is, will RIQ survive Josh's assessment of him tonight? I'm pretty sure he will because he's making millions of dollars and he won't hear this, but still disappointed. Josh Jobe higher up the depth chart. So that was in response to, will Shaq start instead of RIQ at cornerback versus Pittsburgh? And then Ben's come in and said Jobe is higher up the depth chart. I said I think Woolen will start, but it all depends on how he plays that game. And Gary, you like making me read these. It was not a great showing from either team. As divisional rivals, they cancelled each other out most of the time. I think next week's game will be a better measuring stick to assess this team. Also, we need to remember this is a new offensive coaching team and scheme. It takes longer to establish. I do think fans become impatient very quickly. As someone a lot closer to it, James, do you get that sense that as Seahawks fans in Seattle, do you guys get impatient sort of quickly when things don't sort of come together?
Well, as fans, we've been through a lot. So, yes, it is frustrating, especially when we know what these guys are capable of. We know they have the pieces. Yeah. It's just a matter of getting it together and how they do. Now, defensively, it's coming together with exception to a few. Let's just say that. That being said, offensively, I think these guys have the ability to be really, really good this year. It's just a matter of getting everybody healthy, getting everybody kind of on the same page, and keeping everybody healthy. I think if they stick with that idea that you start with the run game first, you force the ball down on them, and then you start working in your runs or working in your passes in between your runs, you've got the guys that can do the passes. I mean, you've got some amazing players. It's just a matter of using them the way that they should.
Agreed. I like that assessment. And there you go. That was it for our Discord member musing. So thank you to everyone in the Discord who put a question or a questionable statement up there. Yannick, I'm looking at you. We really appreciate that all the time. We have got some comments coming in quickly before we go, because like I said, James is currently at work. He's taking time out of his busy day, so we really appreciate that. So some of these, next time, Yannick, next time I'll write more family friendly. Thank you. We're a family friendly pod. We're a clean pod.
But
yeah, so I mean, before we do go, and before we let you go, James, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on social media? So where I found you and anywhere else where people can follow you?
Just the Greene Hawk, either Instagram or TikTok. Facebook is, the older stuff. So, but yeah, just the Greene Hawk or Greene Hawk on TikTok and Instagram.
Nice. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I mean, usually we try to get to as many comments as possible, but it's we've run over time. And I really don't want you to get in trouble. So
no worries.
I really appreciate it. So I'd like to say a massive thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of your content on TikTok because it gets me through my days. And I always look on in envy at your man cave with all the Seahawks memorabilia. What one day
maybe next time we'll do it from there. So
you're on when me and Mitch come to Seattle.
All right.
But I just want to say a massive thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Obviously, if you're new, please like this video. If you're watching now, get on YouTube, just like it. Helps the algorithm. It helps us reach more 12s. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. You can find us on basically every form of social media, TikTok, X, Facebook. There's a Facebook group there. Instagram as well. And Blue Sky, we're on there too. And you can also join the Discord for free. Mitch has put the link already in there. It's also down below in the description, as is James's TikTok tag as well as down there. But for me, I just want to say a massive thank you to James. I really appreciate you doing this, mate. We'll be back for our Pittsburgh Steelers pod with Seahawks Sam, an Australian 12 that we're working out the logistics of times. So we really appreciate this. James, we like to finish all of our pods with a Go Hawks. Would you like to join us with a Go Hawks?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.